Hey, everybody. What an opportunity. Reading a book, loving the book, realizing, why don't I just reach out and see if this author will be on the show with me? And here we are. Without any further delay, I want to formally introduce this week's guest. What does it take to build a highly profitable business without building a big team? And that's the key here, without building a big team. Today's guest has built her work around challenging the assumption that growth means more employees, more complexity, and a bigger operation, not to mention a bigger headache. She is the founder of No BS Mastery, where she trains experts, consultants, and boutique agencies on the No BS business model, with a focus on building businesses that can generate $250,000 to $500,000 or more a year while giving the owner more freedom. She's a TEDx speaker, host of the No BS Mastery podcast, and a former Forbes contributor. She's also the author of 2 best-selling books, Badass Your Brand and Scale Solo, for experts who want to profit more, deliver faster, and cut the BS. I'm so looking forward to talking with her about what it really means to scale solo, the choices business owners make as they grow, and how her books connect to the work she does with clients. Welcome, Pia, to the show.
Thank you so much, Robbie. It's great to be here.
As I said, it was like perfect timing to come across your book, because I was deep in the throes of doing an operations assessment and trying to understand how to scale. And it was very affirming to hear you say, like, it's not about big. Like, I'm not trying to be this huge boutique. I don't even want to be a small boutique. I want to get the work done without losing my mind in the process.
Yeah.
So that's the most recent book, Scale Solo. But your first book, which I also checked out, had a slightly different audience. So there's clearly an evolution in the way you're approaching your work. And as you're learning things, I feel like you're sharing it with all of us, and we really benefit. Share a little bit about the audience that you had in mind as you were working on these books. Who's the ideal person to be like, this is my book?
Yeah. So I wrote Badass Your Brand in 2017 when, I had a branding agency called Worst of All Design with my husband. And we had gone through this journey of trying to build an agency the traditional way, the right way, failed miserably, ended up firing our employees and finding a different path that was highly profitable and gave us a lot of freedom. So I wrote Badass Your Brand soon after that to explain how we marketed and positioned our book, and how anyone who is an expert can sell their expertise and position it for more profit and freedom. And that's, the subtitle is The Impatient Entrepreneur's Guide to Turning Expertise into Profit, because I am super impatient. I know my people are too. What is the shortest path to that success? And what I found was the shortest path to that success was building a badass brand that had a lot of pull and push marketing, right? So if you are loved by some, you have to be okay with being hated or disliked by others. So that was the reason I wrote Badass Your Brand. I wanted to show people how they could be more profitable faster instead of going the route of having employees, and through this badass brand concept. Now, in that book, I was using my own business for a lot of the stories, and I kind of casually was talking about how we ran our own business. So for the next 4 years, I had all these small expert businesses come up to me and say, I loved your book, but I want to know more about how you were running your business, how you were delivering intensives, and how you were delivering entire brands in just a couple of days. And clients were saying yes to everything. So in 2021, I ended up starting a new business called No BS Mastery to teach that process. And over the last 5 years, I have been coaching and training hundreds of people on this tight model, this intensives model, selling up front instead of doing free proposals, and how to scale without employees. So I wrote Scale Solo because I was like finally ready to put it all down in a book. I think partially because I wanted to get the whole model, partially because I had a business coach who said, you designed a business model, which I wasn't really realizing. So she helped me realize that. And partially because I wanted to get it out to so many people, and partially because I wanted to kind of, I'll be honest, like draw a line in the sand and be like, this is my business model before somebody else like learned it and wrote something similar. So that was another reason to like really kind of own my IP.
Oh, yeah. I want to dig in a little bit about the reason for writing books in the first place,
Yeah.
because they're just so much work. But I could tell, like, you're mission driven, and there's a message that you have, and you really really want to help people, and you're really clear that you are doing something unique. I mean, just going back to your first book, I mean, I have a very particular brand for my business, and it's very value based, and it's not like we have to agree on every single issue, but I did have an email that went out that was like, if you did this again with your voting, there's an unsubscribe link in this thing. Like, just stop following me. And I said, I'm gonna get so much pushback. So if you love what I'm saying, like, write me back. I got like 84 people who wrote me to say like, oh, we love you, like you're awesome, protect LGBT people. Let's like, and I had one Republican who was like, but I like your stuff. Why can't I keep following? I like you. And I was like, yeah, but you made a really bad decision, and I don't need to keep supporting that. So it was just like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, like line in the sand for me. Like I can't be known for that, which gets hard when you start collaborating with bigger companies, because that's so much more research and due diligence. But
Absolutely.
you are like, repel is part of the game. Like, I think we all want to be loved and have the right people be attracted to us. But I appreciate that you're like, yeah, and for some people it's going to be a no-go.
It's
And
actually stronger when some people think it's a no-go. That means you're actually saying
yes,
something of value.
I'm also a truth teller. So now I'm in this new space around books.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was at an event. It was a pay to play, very interesting space to be in. The audience
Yeah.
probably has whiplash because like every person on the stage had their message. They were like pitching and selling hardcore. And like a bunch of people were saying things. I'm like, oh, that is not how I think of authors and books. Like that's the thing I'm trying to push against. And then there were people who were agreeing with me getting on stage. And I'm like, how does the individual person in the audience like have any ideas? It's like so uncomfortable. But I'm like, that's why I'm going to keep showing up in these spaces and have these longer conversations and engage. Um, that book, I love that you did lay out everything about your business. And I'm not surprised that it led to those questions, because your premise, just to share a little bit, could you about the premise was like most people were doing these extended discovery and then writing up proposals, which were just a ton of work and often free labor, because people were taking the ideas built from even that, and whether they hired you or not, they like learned something. And you were like, these extended engagements don't need to be, but you have to find clients willing to change the dynamic. And I think that was the interesting part for me, was
Mm.
how to share the value of doing an intensive rather than what they had been used to, and getting all the, I guess, decision makers like agreeing to that, because the decisions are going to be done quick. Like, no, like waiting for Bob to like, please
Yeah.
respond. We can't move forward with this project. How did you decide that was the best idea? And how did you start to convince clients? And then when others hear it, they must think you're just bonkers, right? But like, you're like, no, I've shown it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a long answer. I wrote a whole book about it, but
Yeah,
I'll give you the
right. Which
short
we'll link
answer.
to in the show
Yeah,
notes.
I'll give you a couple of pieces. So
Yeah.
I would say, well, one piece was it's just a complete shifting of the dynamic between you and the client. The
Right.
traditional way is we're writing free proposals, right? We're begging for work. We're tap dancing. We're doing everything we can to show how amazing we are and show how smart we are and look at what I know and look at what I can do. And we're just hoping that the client will hire us, and they can just do whatever they want, right? They can just take your proposal. They can ignore you. You can ghost you. They can never talk to you again. And you just do all this work for them for free. And so one thing was completely shifting that and saying, we don't do proposals at all, but you'll pay us a nominal amount of money, a few $100s at first. And I will sit down with you and I will give you a really valuable plan. So you want this goal over here? I will interview you, understand everything, not just about what you think you want, but like about your business and your goals and your challenges and where you've been and where you are now and where you want to go. And then I will tell you, hey, this is exactly what you need to do to have a badass brand that gets all of these things. And you'll pay us, I started at $650. And sure enough, once someone pays you, they feel completely differently about the advice that you give them. They are an open book because they've paid you. So now when you're writing a free proposal, a client's going to tell you everything you need to know, but not really, because the dynamic is totally different. Once they've paid you, it's like it would be a waste of money for them not to divulge everything about their business and what's going on and their goals and all of that. So first of all, you end up writing this much more valuable strategic brief and plan. You are building an incredible amount of trust. And that's the main word, trust. You're building an incredible amount of trust with that client during this first process. And by the time you get to the end and say, here's the plan, you can do it yourself. Or by the way, for this one price, we will take this off your plate and we will execute this whole thing for you. And what I found by doing that and changing this relationship was that most of my clients at the end would go, "Oh my God, yes, please," because they'd be nodding along in the whole brief. They'd be like, "Yes, I see that. Oh, that's so great. Yes, I want that, blah, blah, blah." And then at the end, it's like, "Well, I don't know how to do this. Yes, please do this for me." And so the question of how do you get clients to say yes on the spot? How are they going to agree to do the project in a couple of days instead of 6 months? It's a different conversation. I'm telling them, we're not going to drag this out. For what purpose? You trust me. You want me to do it. I'm going to show you what this needs to be. And we don't need to go back and forth on this, because you're not hiring me to be the hands to try to read your mind and design what you're picturing. You're hiring me to tell you what this should be. And I know, so let me do it. So it's this confident leadership that you need to have, but clients will pay more for that. I will pay more for that, right? I pay more for someone to tell me what the answer is than for me to have to work with them and have to lead them. That's a completely different dynamic.
This is where I am first and foremost a strategist. It happens that I currently work with authors. The work that I'm doing with authors, I was doing with people regardless of whether they had a book. But I have found that authors are at an inflection point where they're more open because they've already invested a lot.
Right.
And so it's a little bit of what you're talking about. They're ready to hear better advice, but I'm also like clear about what I'm capable of helping them do. Like if we're aligned on what they're trying to do and it's something I can help them with, like then yes, they hand that process to me because we've agreed on the outcome. But if I were having to ask them at every like minute like intersection of like this or this, oh my gosh, like no wonder that takes so long. But I think you're helping us all see that it's that building of that trust, but it's also showing that expertise. I think though a lot of people undervalue what they can do as an entrepreneur. And so you are starting with the premise that you believe in your your ability and you can deliver and you have a history of delivering and all that. So have people pushed back at all? Like what are some readers saying when they're not in that headspace? Like I feel like that's a bottleneck that has to be addressed in some way.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And plenty of people, I think plenty of people follow me and learn from me and they go, but Pia can do that and I can't. Right. But you have so much confidence, Pia, and I don't, right? Or I'm not, whatever it is. And to that, I say, this is not a binary thing. You don't know it or don't know it. Everybody is on a journey of becoming more and more expert wherever you are starting. And there is a price point for wherever you are, and there is a client for wherever you are. So the goal is to start where appropriate and then build your skills and your confidence with actual real world experience, right? Like actual data in the world, working with clients and getting better and better at your craft, getting better at your leadership skills, your communication skills, and that all builds confidence, and it also builds pricing confidence. So when we were like pitching these $30,000, 6-8 month projects, and they were very unprofitable. And almost overnight, because we were in debt and we kind of we had to let go of our employees and find a different path. And we ended up starting with these $3,000 one-day projects. Now, it was $3,000. It was two of us working. We just would work for the day. Maybe we'd do a teeny bit of prep work ahead of time. That was what the first intensive looked like. It was much more akin to like a VIP day. You're kind of buying our time and we're going to do as much as we can this day. over time, and after doing hundreds of these, we got really good at it. We got the process got tighter. We started raising the price. We started doing more and more ahead of time. We started being more and more strategic. So we were like building our process, our confidence. You do, dozens of these, and everybody that comes in, you know exactly how it's going to go. You know exactly what their questions are going to be. You can anticipate everything because you've seen all of it. So that is, everybody has to start somewhere, and you're not going to be Pia, who's going to deliver a $40,000 2-day intensive immediately. But you're going to get there faster than I got there, because I was kind of bumbling along and figuring out. I probably did 50 at $3,000 before it even occurred to me to raise the price. And as soon as it occurred to me, I was like, oh, I could sell. I mean, I started raising the price $1,000 every month. No slowdown in sales. I could have done that so much earlier, but I was just,
Right.
I was just in my own world. I was all by myself. So there's a faster path than what I took. But the point is, there was a lot of reps there that built that confidence. I didn't just have this confidence overnight. It was from actually doing it.
I remember getting on a call with someone in the publishing space. And at the time, because my background's also, I'm a virtual event design consultant and an executive Zoom producer. That was what I played with during the pandemic. I built a whole 6-figure business around that. And so people started inviting me to host their launch parties, virtual launch parties. And I was charging like $600 because it was kind of turnkey for me. Like, it was like not a big deal. It wasn't a business plan. It was just like a thing I did.
Right.
And I told a person who her team was charging 2,000 and they had like 4 people involved. And I was like, why do you need 4 people to run a 90-minute event? Like, this is like something I can do in my sleep. But she was like, appalled that I was charging so low. And I was like, well, okay, so clearly there's a market for hire, but like, I feel like I'd have to do something more than, like, I'm not doing enough. So it was just like a mental thing in my head. And then now I have a 5-figure offer. So that's not just about the launch party. It's the whole extreme, but like experience. But it is interesting how it's an iterative thing. Like, the first time I got paid to speak was $200, right? Like, you go start somewhere. But you can't just think about these things and get better at it and get more confident. I love the idea that you just keep trying it and doing it. But if we have you in mind, we can create processes faster. We can raise higher rates faster. I'd love to hear about why you decided to write a book, and were you surrounded by authors at the time? Like, was that part of your world? Because you were in this like agency model. So were there lots of people writing books? Was like that part of being known, or the reputation wise, like what were your thoughts on a book when you first got started thinking about that?
Well, I think someone just told me this stat that like 86% of people, not entrepreneurs, people want to write a book. Like writing a book is kind of this bucket list thing. And so I definitely had that as one thing. But I think there were a couple of really tangible reasons. One of them was, I just explained how our process works and why it works. And I wanted more of that. I wanted people to listen to me. I was like, I know how to do this and I'm good at it. And I want my clients more and more to come in deferring to me. And so a book is a great way to build authority. I purposefully put my face on the book, and I put my face on the book against the advice of a lot of traditional author, book publishers that I spoke to who strongly recommended against it. And my husband and I had to decide, and we said, but the whole purpose of this is to make me the authority so that people come into our office and listen to me. So I said, I'm going to put my face in the book. I ended up feeling like that was the best idea because it made me more memorable. I also cut my hair into a bob like soon, only a couple of years before that, for branding reasons. I was like, I need to be recognizable. I need to be memorable. Like, this whole thing was about making Pia a brand as opposed to, just somebody. So that was one reason. I knew a book would help me with that. The other reason, and the reason I didn't even consider trying to find a publisher, was because my brand is very like, you can do it yourself. You can make this happen. And I wanted to go through the process of writing a book. I wanted to see what the process was like. I wanted to see what the process of marketing a book was like. I just wanted to learn all of those things, not because I was going to necessarily advise people on that. But by knowing all about that world, I could also speak to it with my clients. And most of my clients were experts, the kind of people who are thinking about writing a book. So I could, from a place of experience, I could speak to why when I do and did and didn't think that it would be appropriate for them to go down that path. And I could tell them, as the simple stuff that, is obvious to people like you and me, which is, if you're going to write a book, you better be ready to spend 5 times as much effort on the marketing of it, or else the book doesn't really matter. And even being able to say that, not just because I heard someone say it, but because I know from experience. I'm like, I can tell you what to do to market your book, but are you prepared to do that? I don't think so. So I could speak to that, and that made me a more valuable advisor.
Yeah, no, it's like you are doing it so you can also share it, teach it, like help people reflect on it. I'm sort of built the same way. I've independently published all of my books. And Dory Clark, who you and I both know well, had said, hey, you should have a traditionally published book, and I was like, I want to move faster. Like I want to get my content out there. I don't want to have all these restrictions. Like to me, like my book is designed to do a certain purpose. And I love having better educated prospects. Like what you just described, where people read your process and then come into a call having already kind of bought in. Yeah. They're like, oh, now can they afford you? Is the timing going to work and all that? That there's still things to ask about, but it's about fit, not about convincing them that this is a good idea. And so for my latest offer, the fact that people can sort of start to DIY the process from my book, realize, oh, this is a lot more than I thought. And I have maybe an interest in having someone else handle this. And they get, they're referred to me, and like they come in and boom. Like I remember I had a sales coach as an author get on a call with me. Her name is Lois Kramer. She's really well known for working with professional speakers about how to do sales for their business. And she said yes in like 12 minutes. The book didn't exist yet. I had never had someone say yes to me in 12 minutes, but she had been referred to me after doing a lot of research. She'd talked to a lot of people who knew my process. I didn't know how much she had done to come into that call. I said, well, it's important you take some time to think about that. And I basically stepped all over this sale. And then she said, Robbie, and I said, oh my God, I'm going to be an example in your next training, aren't I? And she said, yes. And I'm like, Lois, I can't wait to work with you. This is so exciting. I resumed the conversation, but I was like so astounded. But now I kind of expect that to happen at a certain percentage of these calls. It's just going to like come in. They're going to be like, yeah, Robbie, explain to me that I'm good. And I'm like, oh, product market fit. What a concept. And it's because people come in knowing. Now, the writing of a book, though, having these great ideas for why you want to have a book is one thing. But then you had to actually write it. And as you said, 5 times the effort for marketing it. I was just taking a look, you did this first book, like it's been out since 2017, right? So it's still getting reviews. That's the most amazing thing, is that it's still clearly it's still selling. I mean, the last review came in August 7th. It's like a week ago.
Oh,
when
really?
We were recording this.
Yay.
Yeah. No, hey, Laura, who just left a review. So
hey, Laura.
Very cool to see that.
Yeah.
But obviously you learned a lot, and there were things you couldn't have foreseen about that process. Then you go to decide to write the second book, Scale Solo, which just is much more recent. So what lessons did you take from book 1 that you applied to book 2 once you had that like understanding of what goes into creating a book?
Yeah, like did I learn something and made it better? So there's about 9 years in between these 2 books. And okay, so I'll tell you like the transparentness behind this second book, and then you'll understand why. Like I can't say it was that different, actually. I decided to write Scale Solo at the end of August 2025. I published Scale Solo on March 3rd. So that means I decided to write it and wrote it in 3 months, and then did the marketing for it and launched it a couple months later. And I did it I had decided to write, and I did it on the almost exact same timeline, actually, for Badass Your Brand too. I spent about 3 months writing the book. Now, the reason I was able to write it so fast is because I had already written both of these books out loud, spoken, teaching, writing, 10 times over. So it was more like, I just have to put this all down on paper. I say that because I did it and needed to do it quickly. And so I kind of didn't have time to like imagine doing anything different. I'd already done it. And I was like, that totally worked. I'm going to do it again, just bigger. So the only difference, I think, there were two differences. One was that I knew more people, so I got really fancy blurbs. Dory Clark was such a doll and blurbed my first book, and she was kind of like my big fancy get, and I was so grateful to her for doing that. And she blurbed my second book too. But I was able to get Selena Sue and Laura Belgray and AJ Harper and Seth Godin and Mike Michalowicz to blurb this book. So that was a big one. And I had to really get over myself to ask those people, because I was very, I was intimidated, and I was surprised they all said yes, but I was very scared of rejection with that. So that was one big difference. And the other difference was that I just tried to do it bigger. So my first book, I was trying to get to 100 as quickly as possible. And my second book, I was trying to get to 200 reviews as quickly as possible. My first book, I got like 100 people to agree to write a review. My second book, I had 500 people sign up to write my review. And I just started all of those things earlier. And I think I went into the second one knowing that you have to ask so many more people, so many more times to get I had 500 people. I gave a free PDF copy of my book to 500 people who agreed when signing up that they would write me a review. And that first week I got like 160 reviews. So that's that's a third. Right. Yeah, that's about right. And, and I was expecting that. But the first time around, I was really disappointed. I was like, wow, you guys really said you would. This is really not that hard. And so I kind of took it personally. And this time around, I was like, yeah, that's what I expected. Even though I hoped more than that would write it, that's okay. That worked out. So I don't know that was that different.
No, so this is actually really interesting, because I feel like you're a rare author for me, because all the people you named, I now, of course, have you in the same category. Like with Mike Michalowicz and AJ Harper. I got to hang with AJ at a conference recently. Love all the people you've mentioned.
Yeah.
So, but I also know that a lot of them, like they don't really put as much effort into getting reviews. Like the reviews come from Mike Michalowicz because he's known for having these incredible books that he and AJ have created. So there's a huge, just like a volume game, right? It's like Dory Clark, like, every book that comes out, she's building and amassing an incredible following of dedicated people. And so it's just really hard to get that traction. And one of the things I'm hearing that you did, which is the thing that I'm trying to teach people to do, is that you made an effort to make sure that was happening. Like you gathered people, you sent them the PDF, you made the specific request, you did a follow-up, more.
I did more than that. You want to hear what I did?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I started asking people to sign up to agree to give my reviews in November for a March launch. Yeah. And I, in the month leading up, so we sent the PDF out like at the beginning of February. So they had a month to read it. And then throughout February, we were like, kind of reminding them that this was coming up. And then a couple weeks before, we actually sent them like, hey, it's time to submit your review. And we sent them a Google form and said, just write your review now. And then the day that it launches, we will send it back to you. And then we did that. So the day it launched, anybody who had submitted their review already, we sent it. We were like, literally, here's the link. Here's what you wrote. Just cut and paste it. So we were just doing everything we could to make it, really simple and systematized.
Did you do that for the first book?
I didn't do that for the first book. For the first book, I just had a Excel spreadsheet, a Google sheet, and I was emailing everybody, probably group, but then I was probably personally emailing, but it was fewer people. So I didn't do that kind of back and forth, but I did. And you know what else I did? I did this for both of them, but I did it more so actually the first time. The first time around, I said, if you screenshot your review and send it to me, you can come to this special training that I'm going to do about the 50-25-25 rule, profit and freedom formula. And I got a lot of people to do it that way too. So I was, and I was always like, honest review. I'm not looking, I don't need you to gas me up. I just need the reviews. But a lot of people wrote the reviews so that they could come to that special training.
It's tricky. That last point, it's a little tricky because of the Amazon rules. So we have to be careful.
We have to be very careful.
Yeah, because you can't give things in exchange except for the PDF of the advanced reader copy.
Right.
By the black and white reading of the rule.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I have to say, like most first time authors miss out on all the things you're talking about, and they think that writing the book is the point, and they treat it like a marathon, which is the thing you keep hearing, is like writing books like running a marathon, which is one skill and it's endurance of that skill, but it's a triathlon, not a marathon. So there's the writing of the book, which is its whole thing, and you think in the moment it's the hardest thing you're ever going to do. Like, yeah, swimming in an ocean, very hard. Like, I agree. Okay, now dripping wet, you're going to go over to a bike, and now you get to have a whole different set of people helping you figure out how to like get the book edited, formatted, published, cover design, get it up on KDP, whatever, Ingram Spark.
Right.
You're not done.
You're just getting started.
This is still this whole third leg of launching it, which is the reviews, getting the team, and then the ongoing marketing. And you actually had a real sense of that was coming, and you did what you did in the first time, and you advanced that. And so before you and I went on air, I was talking about how I use like all these different Google Sheets, and I have this tool called the Edit and the Malmerge. I write about it in my book. And I say it's hyper personalized at scale, because I collect reviews in advance for my launches and for my clients.
Right.
But I also then, if they do send that, then they don't get a reminder to do that. And so it's a whole series of, depending on the last activity or the next activity, is how I split the email sequence that they're getting. But it's a manual process. Like, we have to check to see if they did it. It's like, we're still trying
our CRM does that as best they can.
Right.
Yeah. They have to tell us they reviewed it for them to be taken off the list.
Yes.
So there's kind of an automation there. But yeah, to your point, and it's unfortunately you can't be perfect about it.
Right. So this is the thing I'm paid to do, is to like get in the weeds and care about all those details. But the third, I just want to go back to that. If you want 50 reviews, I tell people you get 150 people saying yes to doing it, and you have to ask over 200 to get 150 people to say yes. And the further out you go, the more likely that third number is going to hold. Like, if you have 60 people in your launch team, you're going to get 30. That's not going to be that hard, because it's a hand-picked list of 30, but 60 people. But I worked with one person, David Newman, who wrote a book called
David Newman. Yes.
Oh, yeah, love him. So his fourth book came out, Market Eminence, and his numbers were amazing, because he had 450 people say yes. So we asked 3,000. Okay, he had 3,000, 450 people said yes, and 225 got a review up by his launch day. So like, that's because of who he is in the world. That's how I'm like, some of this is out of my control. It's like, how do you show up? How engaged is your list? Like, do you help other people? What do people think of you? Like, it's a reputation question.
Right.
So I also think between books 1 and 2, you have that. One thing I do notice, because I get into the weeds about this, your percentage of written reviews to global ratings changed dramatically from books 1 to book 2.
Oh, I've never even looked at the global ratings. Yeah, tell me.
So it shows me that you made it, like, to me, it shows that you had a specific effort around the review piece for the second book, even like a more tightly done. So for the first book, you have for global ratings, that's the number we all see at the top, which is 634 global ratings. So that's the number of people who took the time to leave a star rating, 1 through 5 stars. The 323 of the 634 wrote a review.
Okay.
And so roughly a little more than half. For your second book, that percentage jumps dramatically. 202 ratings, but 192, all but 8 left a written review.
Oh, interesting.
So you can see, like, you're getting, yes, that number 634 is like, oh, that looks so fancy. But like, underlying that, the algorithm knows how many reviews were actually written. And so that's influencing where your book's showing on the search results page and all that. And, I've seen people, some of the people we listed even earlier, where that percentage is like a third of the ratings is the number of people, or even 25% have left written reviews. So 50% at that scale is actually pretty good. But to have, what is it, 99.9% of the people, that's to me, like, that's a level of engagement, because for whatever reason, it is incredibly hard to get people to write a review.
For whatever reason.
It is a real effort.
I
So
know.
kudos on that. And this is book's not that, and mine's sitting right there, by the way. I wanted to say, like, I understand how hard it still is. I'm looking at it now and I'm like, oh, mine's there. I'm actually curious, most recent. Yeah. So, most recent one for this latest book is July of 2026. You had quite a few come in July of 2026. The other thing to look at though is the percentage of verified purchase reviews, and that's where it gets difficult because there's not as many on your second book that are verified purchase reviews, and that's part of the
Right, because
algorithm.
I gave it to them.
So I give people the PDF, but then I give them a discounted access to the discounted
I
Kindle
did
book.
that too. I gave them
Yeah.
that 99-cent thing, but
Yeah, and then
it's
you were like, please go buy this in order to do this, and I
yeah, yeah,
tell her
yeah.
the steps. Yeah, it gets tricky. But your motivation around positioning yourself with authors, I'm curious, like what new opportunities come to you? Because it's because I'm an author, like now what's changing around who you can attract to you, who you can reach out to, how people, see your business. Like, has it made a tangible difference between the expertise you had back in 2016 and now here you are 10 years later, 2026, the two books?
Oh, well, I mean, it's not even comparable. I tell people like a book is the best marketing tool you can have. I mean, to your point earlier, after Badass Your Brand, every client came to us ready to buy, right? And at some point in the conversation, I would never assume that somebody read my book, but at some point in the conversation, they would say that they had read the book. And I was like, oh, so you know all about me, right? Because in my first book, I'm also tell a lot of personal stories. I'm like, oh, you know all about me and how I met my husband and like our travels and like all these other personal stories that I included. And I got that vibe. People would, I get on the phone with them and they'd talk to me like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm talking to you. And like, I know so much about you and you don't know me, but I know you. And so it's a really interesting dynamic. And then with my second book, the thing that is very different is that I have had a few clients, they bought from me, tell me later that they found me because I had somebody tell me, oh, I was about to go on a road trip and I opened Audible and your book was suggested to me and I read and I listened to it on my road trip and then I hired you. So I was like, oh, that's different. That's exciting. This is getting suggested to people without any of my marketing. That's obviously what we want. So I think that's the biggest difference.
I have a theory about that, actually.
Oh, tell me.
Based on how high a percentage of written reviews to global ratings you have in your second book, I feel like you probably asked people who were very aligned with your message. You ask quantity of people, but you're also, a lot of authors here launch team and like their understanding is find 30 family and friends and beg them to like twist their arm until they write a review. But that's a dead end. Like those are the hardest reviews to get because they love you, but they don't really understand what you do. They don't understand the importance of books. And even if they do it, they have no one to tell about your book. So instead, because you have the right kind of reader buying your book, leaving reviews for your book, it gives Amazon the information of who to refer it to. When you've got mystery readers and cookbook buyers all mixed in, and it's just the first 100 sales are like just a weird mix, the algorithm can't hook onto that and it can't help you as much. So by being much more intentional about, that effort you were doing about getting people to go and interact with the book, you set that in motion, and here it is, like Audible suggesting your book. But listen, Amazon wants to sell books. Like that's their job. And if you can give the right signals to Amazon, it will refer your book to the right people that it thinks is going to buy your book, which is like, it's what we want. But I think sometimes we mess that up unintentionally by like just aiming for sales or aiming for reviews without the strategy of who needs this book and who knows the people that need this book. And I'm guessing you were a little more aligned with that.
Well, I'd love to say that I did that intentionally, but I think it's just because I'm, I have more of an audience now.
Yeah.
So, and that audience is obviously aligned with what I talk about. And it was, for sure. I just knew more people that weren't just my friends and family.
Right. So that's the benefit of the second book. You're seeing that's awesome. It's interesting because I've had my first book was about networking at conferences. And even very recently, it was shared out in an Amazon email as a suggested book. Because I lower it 3 times a year. I organize a Kindle flash sale. We all lower our books to 99 cents. And Amazon goes and looks for books that are discounted that have a high rating. And my book qualifies. And so Someone forwarded me. They were like, yeah, 2 weeks in a row, your book was on this list of books to buy. And I was like, it's 2017. Like, that's
Oh,
how
wow.
long ago I wrote that book,
Right. Yeah. Isn't that
What?
amazing? They
But
have staying power.
yeah, and that's because of the hundreds of reviews. They're still on there and they're still serving a purpose. So things that you don't expect, you don't look for, are going to show up because we're working kind of with the system that's in here.
Right.
But how are you keeping the buzz alive? Are you still promoting book one? Are you mostly focusing now on the buzz and the marketing for book two? Like, how are you getting the word out?
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, I took back the I don't know exactly what this is. You'll know better than I do. Like Amazon had some exclusivity on the audio book or something. So at some point I took the rights back so that I could also sell it or give it away, the audiobook specifically. So for the last 2 years, I felt like it had been long enough. I mean, people still buy the book, obviously, but I used my first book. I often use it as like a really special giveaway opt-in for events that I do, right? Like you can get, so I used to do that a little bit with the PDF, but having the audio version is much more valuable than having the PDF. So that has been a really great list builder for me. And of course, I want everyone to read it, right? Because I know that readers are buyers. So I'm happy to get as many people reading it as possible. And then with Scale Solo, there's like endless things you can do to promote your book, right? And something that we have been, we're actually like getting it up as we speak, and it took a lot longer than I wanted, is actually like a book funnel. So something where, we're actually able to put ads to it and have people sign up to get, like a free copy, maybe just pay for shipping. Maybe there's some bonuses, like there's kind of different versions of this, a little few order bumps, but the purpose is to get the actual physical copy into new people's hands, so that it's on the shelf in their house, because I think that just has staying power. So that's a big thing. And then also just, always looking for the right kinds of podcasts to go on. I did hire the first time around, and I didn't do that this time because I simply did not have the bandwidth for it, because I also launched a program a month after my book launched. I did a whole launch right on the heels of my book launch. So there was a lot going on. But the first time around, I hired, I want to say Connections.
Interview Connections.
Yes. Interview Connections. And they did my podcast tour. And so I was on like 50 podcasts within the first couple of months. And that was really big. And so that was the main like ongoing marketing that I did back then, because I just paid them a lump sum and they just got me on like booked on tons of stuff. But I wanted to say one thing about the, like authors don't always think about the review part. I don't know why, but it was like, what is the point? To me, it was like, why would I write this book if I wasn't going to make sure I got tons of reviews? Because when I go look at a book, if it doesn't have a lot of reviews, I immediately judge it. I just immediately judge it. So of course, that's what other people are going to do. So I knew it needed to have some sort of critical mass of books. And it's weird because there are some really big authors with really fancy books with almost very few reviews. And you wonder about the book, even though now from the back end, I know, they probably just like didn't put any effort into getting reviews because they don't care, because they don't need it. But it does look off.
Yes. I was just looking at an author who's got lots of books out, and like the book, the review counts like dramatically shift. And I'm like, he now has a book that's been out for a year, 0 reviews. I'm like, I'm really confused about that book. Like, but sometimes they're like, I'm trying a different thing. And, I'm like, well, that one didn't get reviews. Over 90% of buyers say they check reviews before they make a purchase. Even if I were buying something in a physical store. I did this once with a vacuum cleaner. I was standing in the store. I looked at the reviews on Amazon to decide whether I was walking out. I mean, if I was in an independent bookstore, I would look at the reviews for your book before buying the book. It's an aggregate. We trust strangers' opinions en masse much more than like one influencer at a time, right? Yeah, I mean, it's an aggregate. It's probably good that we kind of get a little bit of information, but it's the fact that you thought that way. I want to call that out as being a kind of unique trait. And as you work with entrepreneurs, it's something to keep pointing out to them that this is an important metric. It's not a vanity metric like hitting number one. It's a sustainable effort to get these. And all those conversations are what leads to new business and new media opportunities. I'm sure in the same process, like even though you didn't do a big fancy podcasting tour with interview connections the second time, that people on your launch team made introductions and you had a few shows lined up here and there
Oh
just by
yeah,
virtue of the energy you're putting out.
totally.
Um,
Yeah, I was on a bunch of podcasts. It just wasn't very deliberate, you know.
right.
It was just
Right.
I
But
know a
people are
lot of
like, yeah,
people now, and people were happy to have me. Yeah.
my intake form for people signing up for the launch team actually asks about that, so that if people have an opportunity to bring an author in to speak or get them on a show or do a live with them or whatever it is, like that invitation can be placed right away.
Mm.
I'm curious about what marketing advice you would tell people to not bother with. Like you tried something and we were like, not really effective. Like, was there anything that you're like, stopped doing, or it was not, maybe it worked but not as much of the effort that you went into it was
Um,
not worth it?
well, I did at some point try. I think I looked into. I don't remember if I actually tried it or not. I wanted to do some sort of Amazon ads, and
Mm,
I think I never really gave it the time that it would
they're hard,
need. Yeah,
expensive.
and I did also. I ran back in like 2018, 2017, 2018. I did run Facebook ads to my book for a while. And I think I was just kind of a little too green to really figure out how to track it or whatever. But I more just had the feeling of, I know that when people read the book, they're gonna become part of my world.
Right.
Obviously in both books, I have a call to action, something to list build with. So I think I spent some money on that for a long time, but I don't think I was really tracking if it was doing anything or not. So,
Yeah.
I guess the moral of the story is like, if you're, there are so many things to
So
do, and whatever you pick, just do them all the way and understand what you're going for. Have clear metrics, have clear goals, and know why you're doing it. And don't just kind of spread yourself thin of like, oh, well, this would probably, it's good to pay. I did a book pub
mhm.
giveaway, I think, and I got thousands of people got it. I don't know if anybody actually of value came
Yeah,
from that.
right. I know.
Right. But it was kind of a, well, let's try this. It wasn't a lot of effort. So those are kind of the things I remember kind of being like, meh, I didn't do them this time.
This is like so helpful. I love when authors are honest about what's working, what maybe wasn't as much of worth the effort. As we wrap up here, because I'm realizing we're running out of time, how can people find you and follow your work?
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn, Pia Silva, or Instagram at Pia Loves Your Biz. But I think if you like everything that I'm talking about, you can actually just go to scalesolobook.com and you can grab the intro and the entire part 1 of my book for free. So you can get a really good taste of it if you're interested in learning more. And then, of course, if you like it, you can grab the book.
Fantastic. We're going to put all these links in the show notes at bizbookpubhub.com, where you find all of today's resources, as well as all the archived episodes. There's hundreds to choose from, a curated directory of experts who will support you wherever you are in your business, writing, editing, publishing, launching, or marketing a book. We have free virtual networking events, Kindle flash sales, so much more. Friends, definitely check it all out and say hello to Pia. Go to bizbookpubhub.com. Pia, thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much, Robbie. This was super fun.